Man, 2k subs. That's a number that's relatively small to a lot of people, but for me, it's definitely a big step. I always do a meme about how I don't like odd numbers, so I was jokingly saying to myself on how I wouldn't do a 1k sub celebration because of that, and do a 2k one instead. But it ended up not really mattering since I gained basically 1k subs in just about a month, which was... Whew, that was fun to witness. Anyway, for the milestone, I wanted to do a different type of video to the Fate Grand Order Servant reviews, and share with you guys more of my personal views and opinions on certain things. And maybe let you all know my taste a bit better, as well as connect with y'all better. So in advance, I made a poll in the community tab on videos to make, and well, most of you really wanted this, so in which case, I shall abide. Welcome to the 2k subscriber special, Manpig's 10 favorite servants from the Fate franchise. Now, this is a list purely from a lore or character perspective, so anything related to Fate Grand Order gameplay is not going to influence this list whatsoever. This list is for servants that I personally really like from their stories alone, be it from an interest of their lore to how creatively Nasu wove their characters from history, or maybe it's a more personal attachment from one of the many stories from Fate. These are all deciding factors. Also, no servants with origins outside of Fate will be present on this list. Look, I love Arcade, Shiki Void, and Fujino to type Pluto and beyond, but I'd rather save characters outside of Fate for a separate video on its own instead. Remember that this is literally entirely subjective to my own opinion, and that this is far from being an intended attack on anyone's opinions or hot takes. This is for fun, and merely just for you to know my personal tastes, nothing more, so please remember that. Final thing of note is a spoiler warning, as I will obviously spoil elements from different Fate works like character abilities, the stories they take a part of, and their character arcs, so please be wary in your step, as I believe Fate should be experienced blind, especially the 3 stories of the main timeline, so again, tread well. With that being said, let's begin. Number 10. Berserker. Jack the Ripper. Berserker Jack is a very interesting one on this list. As a Berserker, Jack is very different compared to how they were as an assassin. For one, rather than taking the form of the wraiths of children, Berserker Jack is the embodiment of the mystery of what Jack the Ripper is. Rumors of what Jack the Ripper truly was continues to spread even to this day. Were they a man? A woman? An animal? A literal monster from hell? Nobody knows. But the fear and memory of Jack the Ripper exists, and that very fear and concept became a servant in the form of the Berserker class. One that is more of a vague concept searching for an identity, and whose noble phantasm allows him to assume the appearances of the many possibilities that people have thought Jack to be, taking the consensus of human fear of the unknown to assume that form. If you ask me, that's fucking genius. My favorite thing about Strange Fake is how the author breaks so many conventional ideas in making his servants, making most of the story feel interesting or unique in so many ways. And while Jack isn't the most unique or interesting servant in Strange Fake, because that's very debatable, they're definitely my personal favorite. In terms of character, Jack is actually quite nice and formal, taking Flat's complete ineptitude as a master in relative stride despite how many times he proves to be awful. Still, for me, it just adds to what is already an interesting character into an even cooler one. Number 9. Saber. Benny Enma. Fun fact. Humanity does not deserve Benny Enma. Despite her full story and character being revealed only very recently in the Nasuverse, is a prime example of why I don't like history, but love Fate. Type Moon took the tongue-cut sparrow, a sparrow from a fairy tale made to teach children morals, into a complete character of their own. Benny was a goddamn Oni that was sent to our world to judge us, and saw the potential kindness in mankind, making an inn to take care of people with superb cooking skill. She is a kind-hearted teacher to many, but also somewhat lovingly strict, with the star baskets that have abilities to honor the original story, and a modified backstory that is similar as well. This interpretation of the tongue-cut sparrow is a master of Iai's swordsmanship, has insane ventriloquism to speak even without a tongue, and best of all, is a wonderful, precious caretaker that treasures her time with a good master. happily working hard for them every day to make sure they stay healthy and happy. That's awesome. She's awesome. And Benny Enma is the prime example of Type Moon making a modified character far more interesting than that of the original source material. And I love it. Number 8. Avenger. Edmond Dantes. Damn. Yeah. While edgy shit is memed on a lot, I unironically think some edgy shit is actually really cool. Maybe not goth, but that's besides the point. Dantes is the definition of that for me. His reason of the hate he has in Avenger being that of a love for humans, but hate for their evil natures, is genius. His actual being not that of Edmond Dantes himself, but instead of the Count. The persona he took on and his feelings of hate in that moment. Not the man in the future, but the man that was in that time, and the turmoil that birthed from unfair and unjust punishment that he went through. His noble phantasms taking the forms of what he represents, his revenge and hatred, giving the form of magical energy flames that burn people like the flames of hell, stripping logic and rules and ingraining the concept that Edmund's revenge shall become victorious. His legend of being an uncontainable human for escaping what seemed to be an unescapable prison, giving rise to an impossible speed, allowing him to break through even space and time from just how fast he is. Finally, his feeling of weight and hope, becoming an ability that allows him to return back from the brink of death, even more powerful than before, to represent his undying spirit until his escape. Saying that out loud though, he really sounds like my epic OC that can kill anything. But hey, at least the lore actually gives reason to that. And as the most powerful Avenger lore-wise, it's definitely a well-deserved title. He's a tormented soul with proper reasoning to how he acts and sees himself. And yet, he does ultimately care for his master and his allies. A perfect ally of darkness, my trustworthy comrade. Avenger, the king of the cavern. Number 7. Caster. Hans Christian Andersen. Here's a question. What happens when you take a child's body, give them the mind of an adult writer that can understand emotions and people very well, and finish off with giving them the personality of a blunt cynic? You get Hans, and I love Hans. Yeah, his abilities as a caster aren't that impressive, but that's not his charm, isn't it? Sure, he does have some really cool abilities, like his noble phantasm turning his master into a story he writes, yet as a writer with a pessimistic view on life, his stories are far from idealistic, and so is his noble phantasm. That's an awesome nerf if you ask me. But man, his appeal comes entirely from his character. Savage. His words strike like a bomb, and his directness feels like a storm. His human observation skill is the perfect interpretation of the writer's personality. But yes, indeed, Hans is really just entertaining, and every time he's present, he makes every moment better. His personality is not polite, but that doesn't make him not fun to watch. His quips and remarks are true and blunt as hell, and the fact that he can say it with so little remorse just to be direct is awesome. He's great, and I always enjoy a conversation with this little savage in it. Oh right, and also... Number 6. Rider. Iskander. Anyone who's watched Fate Zero could possibly understand this. Who is the king whose eccentric personality made you laugh when you first met him, if also be slightly annoyed? Who was the king that led a conversation with other kings, exchanging his views of being a king and proving it to others by showing them his noble phantasm? And who won the hearts of many by the end of the show? Not heartless and understanding of people, but still having his own form of greed and desires that he will fight for. Iskander might only have charisma rank A canonically, but if you ask me, this man has charisma rank EX+. This man has won the hearts of many with his grand goals, his charisma as a leader to bring many to his cause in battle. He helped change Waver to become a very important teacher in the current state of the Nasuverse, and himself has led many as his subjects to his goal. Iskander is a king to be honored, and one to cheer for. He's like Kamina in how his charisma and spirit just make you love him as you fight for his goals. Every time he cheers, I always find myself cheering alongside him, and that alone says a lot on how much I respect this character. Number 5. Saber, Okita Souji. Are you surprised by this? Only number 5. Look, I love Okita as a character. Her energetic personality is very charming, and her quips in Koha Ace and parody events in Fate Grand Order are just as hug-worthy as the best of waifu fruit. But in terms of actual abilities and lore, there really isn't much to say, sadly. Yes, the Shinsengumi is cool, and her relationship with her allies is fun. Fate Koha Ace is quite funny, and she does turn into a badass when time comes to combat, but ultimately most of my love for Okita comes from her charm and personality. In terms of writing, she just isn't that deep, and there really just isn't that much to her. Which is fine. I'm not saying that characters need to be amazing from a writing standpoint. But for me, it's definitely important as I'm a fan of interesting lore and strive to be a writer myself. Regardless, she's still number 5 easily for that lovely charm and irresistible personality. And I adore everything about her. And hey, when you think about it, number 5 on character alone ain't bad in a pool of hundreds of servants. So what can I say? Number 4. Alter Ego, Okita Souji Alter. Man, it was so hard to pick one over the other. And even now, I'm not really sure which one I like more. But I decided to pick Majin Sun over the strawberry because of a few things. First off, Majin Sun's got a lot more lore behind her. She was Okita as a counter-guardian, sealing a deal with Alaya to prevent her from dying from birth, leaving a part of her who barely knows how life is like to act as a guardian. That makes her attachment to life and her master feel genuine, as her master was someone who taught her how to live and how life can be outside of the role of a guardian, even if she doesn't feel like she deserves that life. Her attachment is really sweet, and I find her far too adorable because of that. The other reason is because she has abilities outside of Excelsior swordsmanship. She has the Sky of Nothingness, a space of emptiness that represents her purity and lack of anything. Blazing fires, and an endless multi-dimensional slash with a somewhat cool beam for her noble phantasm. As a human with the ability to pass my own verdict, I personally dictate that such an act is quote-unquote pretty fucking cool. I love the two Okita a lot, and while I did put Majin Sun higher on the list, it was, and still pretty much is, impossible to tell you who I truly like more, as I adore them quite equally, just in different ways. Number 3. Saber, Toria Pendragon. Funny, my least waifu out of the 3 Fate Stay Night heroines is also my favorite character out of the Fate Stay Night heroines. Is that just me? I love Toria not from a waifu standpoint, but as a character. And as a writer who wants to write characters like her, her development from a king that prioritized perfection over humanity, regretting her actions with all the reason to, and her acceptance over time through the main timeline of fate was amazing. Nasu's final interpretation of King Arthur was really well thought out, and I thought she was executed brilliantly. Toria has a lot of different charms to her. Some like her for bits of badassery and cool moments, while others, including me, like her cuter and more human side, as it's charming and in my case, shows off her development in Fate Stay Night very well, and it's most present in Fate Hollow Ataraxia, where she was finally able to become her own person and live the happy life she always wanted to. Her story was just really well thought out, and what Nasu did to reshape the tale of King Arthur and give a new version of it was really impressive in my honest opinion. All while birthing a good character with a great character arc of her own as well. And that reason is why I like Toria Pendragon so damn much. For these final 2 entries, however, what let these 2 reach their place was not appealing personality, intricate lore, or waifu factor. Nah. The 2 top servants in this list are here for their characteristics in a Fate story, the development that they went through, and the impact that they left on me as the person. The two here have a personal attachment to me, and are to this day my two favorite servants in Fate by quite a bit. Those that know me personally know a good way to make me care for something is to make me emotionally attached over them in some form or way. And the two servants, no, the two characters here did that very thing in the stories that I witnessed. So they have a lot of sentimental value to me. With that being said, my second favorite servant is number 2, Avenger, Angra Mainyu. Any person that knows me knows that Fate Hollow Ataraxia is my favorite entry in the Fate franchise, and I can tell you right now, Angra's entire character arc in it is a good portion as to why. First things first, personality-wise, he's a chill dude and honestly far from what you'd expect from all the world's evil. But once you know why, it makes sense. The poor dude was a victim, but eventually accepted it, becoming the embodiment of hate for humanity while enjoying that nature of people because of it. The actual complete opposite of Edmond Dantes, which is also another reason I love Edmond Dantes, but I digress. His interactions and relationship with Bazet is my favorite master-servant relationship in all of Fate, surpassing even Shiro and Artoria, which, until I read Fate Hollow Ataraxia, I thought was impossible. Now for the spoiler bits, and what really sold me on him. For those who haven't read Fate Hollow Ataraxia, I urge you to stop here and skip to this timecode, as Fate Hollow Ataraxia should really be read blind. Because such an amazing story should not be spoiled for yourself. Trust me. For those still here, Angra had a head start by pretending to be a character I already loved. Assuming Shiro's identity in the false dream world made us feel very familiar to him, as if we already knew him. But slowly uncovering the mystery of the world and how both Bazet and Angra were involved in it was an experience with a very genuine relationship. Not to mention, the ending scene, their parting, where Bazet wanted to continue the dream to let Angra continue the illusion of living a happy life, but Angra going against it, wanting for the girl he saved to be let out in the world again. Their dynamic was genius, and honestly made me very emotional witnessing the conclusion to both their character arcs. Excuse me, I need a moment. So how do you top nearly making me cry and hitting me right in the feels with an amazing character development? Well, my favorite servant is one that left an imprint on me from the very beginning. He is what showed me the amazing storytelling that the man named Kinoko Nasu was capable of. And every time I reread and rewatch his story, his origins, his growth, I fall in love with it all over again. Call me predictable. Call this an underwhelming end to what is otherwise a potentially interesting list. I don't care. I have to be honest with myself and honest to you all. Because in the end, the story of this servant still lingers within me. The story of a man that fought against reality to the bitter end, to the point where he broke himself. The story of a boy that wished to help others and be a person like the one that saved him from the hell that he was meant to die in. The story of a person that accepted his own ideals as impossible, but strove for it anyway. And the story of a person that came to peace with that fact. The story of the hero of justice. Number 1, Archer, Emiya. Anyone who actually knows me well would know that I'm often most hyped for original character servants like both Ilias, Melt, and all that other stuff. And that's because I tend to enjoy the backstories and development of original characters more than ones based off legends, simply because there's more to work with. And Emiya is an example of that at its prime. Before anyone says this, I am aware that Emiya and Shiro are basically different characters due to how differently they develop. But despite this, it is because of both these characters that I regard Emiya as my favorite servant. The complete polar opposites, yet the just as many parallels of the different characters was ingenious. And the story of his origin, their interactions, and how their ideals and experiences melded each of them as characters is what makes me love Emiya as a servant. His abilities are really cool too. To have a niche ability in the form of projection that allows him to use really unique combat styles without being a master of any, making him able to have many fights that you just can't tell if he'll win or not. I'm a huge fan of Reality Marbles, and Unlimited Blade Works obviously gave birth to that love. To have someone have an ability stem from their image of their life and personality, and have that represented in a space. It's awesome. Both Shiro's development and his own were great, and overall, he can't be anything but my favorite servant. He is, and always will be. You know, until Shiki Tono finally becomes an assassin. Anyways, that was my personal top 10 favorite servants from the Fate franchise. Some might find it predictable, but whatever man, it's just my opinion. If you want, tell me your favorite servants and why in the comments section. I hope you learned a bit more of my own opinions in the meantime. Again though, thank you for 2,000 subscribers. It's a small number compared to many other channels, but it's a number I didn't think I'd reach half a year ago. For the next milestone, I'm not sure what I'll do, or if I'll even do anything. But still, it was fun. Thank you all, and I hope to see you all again in another video. Until then, farewell. I'll see you again somewhere on the internet.